I'm sitting in the shadows, just behind the curtain, stage left. I've got a plastic goblet in my hand, and there's a little marble rolling in round inside. I am holding it out desperately, praying that someone on stage will see me, and they see me, but they don't move. And so I slowly watch my teaching career die on that stage. I am here because of a 7-year-old girl named Elizabeth Donahue. During the first year of my teaching career, I had a class of second graders, and they were monsters, like legitimately the worst human beings that were 7 years old on the planet that year. And I couldn't get any control over them. So sometime in mid-November, in a fit of desperation, I stood up on a chair and I said, "Friends, Romans, and countrymen, lend me your ears." And for the first time all year, they got quiet. Not because of what I said, but because what I said made no sense to them. So for a moment, they were startled. They didn't know what to do. And then Elizabeth Donahue said, "What is that?" And I said, "Oh, it's a line from a Shakespeare play, Julius Caesar." And she said, "Who's Julius Caesar?" And I said, "Oh, he was a Roman emperor who got stabbed 13 times by different friends until he died." And the whole class went silent because monsters love stories about murder. And so Elizabeth said, "Will you tell us the story?" And because I actually had their attention for the first time, I gathered them and I told them the story of Julius Caesar. And when I was done, Elizabeth said, "Can we do that play?" And I thought, "No, you cannot. You're 7. It's not in the curriculum. It's not going to be okay." But I didn't want to be the bad guy. So I decided to let the principal be the bad guy. Like, they liked me. I didn't want to ruin it. So a couple days later, when the principal pops in the room and he asks how it's going, I say, "By the way, we were doing Shakespeare the other day. The kids want to know if we can do Julius Caesar." He says, "I'll be right back." He comes back to my room a minute later with Albert Cullum's book, Shakespeare for the Classroom, abridged plays of Shakespeare in the original Old English. I did not know that my principal's side hustle was children's theater. And so I became the guy who teaches Shakespeare to little kids, and it was awful. I spent the entire year trying to get 7-year-old monsters to perform Shakespeare. I built sets, I designed costumes, I prepared playbills. The whole time I'm supposed to be like teaching math and learning to become a teacher, and instead I'm doing all of this. It's exhausting. By the end of the year, the kids perform, and my only good moment is the moment it is over and they are gone, and this is out of my life. So 3 months later, I'm at open house for my new class, and a parent comes over and says, "What play are you doing this year?" And I think, "I'm not doing a play." And the other parent says, "Yeah, we heard you're the guy who does Shakespeare with the kids." And so I become the guy who does Shakespeare with kids, which means I build a stage in my classroom, I weld lighting to the girders, I install a sound system. I spend my days going to thrift shops, looking for old clothes that I can put on small children. I build a cache of weapons, mostly plastic swords and other accoutrements for the plays I'm doing. I hate every bit of it. It is exhausting, and it is terrible, and the kids are awful, and I am not good at it. I hate it. Which is why I am here on this night, 5 years later, with a plastic goblet in my hand with a marble in it, because the kids have failed me again. In this case, it is the enemy of all children's theater. It is props. Props ruin everything. And I thought we had our problem with props earlier on. A boy named Zach Goldman comes on stage. He's Polonius. He's supposed to read a letter to the king, and he doesn't have the letter. But he doesn't know he doesn't have the letter because he's 8. He doesn't know he doesn't have the letter until his hand is in front of his eyes, and he looks at his hand as if it's conspired against him. And he says, "I have a letter," and then pauses, realizes he doesn't have the letter, and then says, "Which I have memorized for you and recite to you now." Because we practiced so damn much that he had memorized the letter, and I breathe a sigh of relief. It is over. But it's not. Because Molly Ianello, who's playing the queen, forgot the cup, which is in my hand now. And the cup is really important for the end of the play because everyone's going to die except for Horatio. And it's the poison in this cup that's going to kill most of them. But I have the cup. And Molly can't move to me because we haven't blocked the get out of the throne and come over to Mr. Dix and get the cup. So she's frozen in place. She won't do anything except I notice she's wearing a 1980s prom dress donated by a parent. It's got white beading on it, and she's working one of the beads off the dress. And I realize she's replacing the pearl with a bead. But what will she do for a cup? Because that is also important. And so eventually it comes to the point where she's supposed to raise the glass, drop a poison pearl in the cup, and toast her son and drink it accidentally. Instead, she stands up and she says, "To my son, Hamlet, this bead." And she puts it in her mouth and swallows it. And my teaching career is over. But the play is not over because bad things are still have to happen. The king is supposed to be poisoned by the cup. Instead, Emma Kruger, who's playing Hamlet, she picks up a sword. She just goes over her father and goes, "Die, die, die, die." And the king dies while laughing. At the very end of the play, Horatio is supposed to look for a cup so that he can kill himself and join Hamlet in death, but that's not there either. So he says to Hamlet, "There was but one bead, and my mom already ate it." He says some line about going to heaven, which used to make me cry, but has never made me cry ever since. The play ends. I know everything is over for me, but then a miraculous thing happens. None of the parents realize that anything has gone wrong because none of them know Shakespeare, and the kids are speaking Old English so quickly that nobody knows what the hell they're saying. They're just happy their kids were on a stage performing for the parents. The kids come to me, they say, "Our parents are so stupid." And I'm like, "Yes, they are. But I am the stupid one." Because up until that point, I thought that I was supposed to do everything. I was my own worst enemy. I did every single thing to make the play work. And after that night, I watched those kids make horrible decisions on the stage and then fix them in horrible ways. And it's the moment in my teaching career I understand I just have to step back. I have to shut up. I have to let them do everything. 24 years later, I still do Shakespeare. From the back of the room, I stand there and I occasionally tell kids not to hit each other with swords. I replace the weapons cache when the swords gets broken, and the kids do everything. They teach themselves. I keep my mouth shut, and everything works out great. Thank you.